You love Dungeons & Dragons. Now, experience the ultimate way to play, D&D Beyond. Take up the mantle of Dungeon Master to add friends to your campaign. Enable content sharing so that the entire party can access your books and content. Then, after you've noted who didn't bring snacks, unleash unspeakable terrors on them using the Encounter Builder and Combat Tracker. Ah, here we go. You never bring chips, huh, Dave? You get the gelatinous cube. Classic. D&D is for everyone. D&D Beyond makes it easy.
Welcome back to D&D Beyond, and we are particularly excited because this week we are in October. We are counting down the minutes. It is Dragon Month. In 2 weeks, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons will open before us, and we get all of the draconic goodness and glory we've been looking forward to for months. Level of excitement?
Say it's
Maximum.
about off screen. It's up here. You can't see where my hand is. My hand is actually touching the ceiling. My arms are very long.
We can't disprove it. We have no evidence to the contrary. To help me share that level of excitement, of course, I have invited my colleague Micheal Galvis to come talk dragons with me all this week, as well as streamer, performer, writer, and of course, dungeon master Aliza Pearl. Hello, welcome to the stream.
Hi, thank you for having me to talk dragons. I'm super excited.
So, the official Fizban's Treasury of Dragons comes out on October 19th, but the other weekend at D&D Celebration, we got some sneak peeks of all of this glorious goodness that's, I'm going to point that way, coming your way in the Treasury in the form of some hidden previews that you could find if you were hunting around the D&D Celebration event map. So we're going to talk about some of those previews this week and some of the things that we can already sink our teeth into from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, beginning with one of the 2 new subclasses that is going to be included as a player option in this book. The Ranger Drakewarden is coming to a table near you. First thoughts, Micheal, on the the Drakewarden Ranger.
I'm super excited for this subclass. I don't think I've ever played a ranger except maybe in a one-shot. But I have done quite a bit of reading of the subclasses and reading through the Drakewarden. I am super excited for what this is going to bring to the ranger. It really feels like the type of pet class that I've always wanted the ranger to have.
I love that. A lot of times, often, especially depending on how kind your DM is, I am certainly a soft touch in this area. I will let a lot of people have pets. Just to anyone who wants them, pets as far as the eye can see. But it's really lovely to have something that makes your bond with a pet as a ranger especially special. So Beastmaster gets that, of course, and we're going to get a lot of flavor of what it means for your bond with your pet to exist in the Drakewarden. Aliza, first thoughts?
Well, it's funny that you say, depending on what kind of DM you are, and you being one that allows pets, because I notoriously am the DM who let my party have 6. Each of them have a young dragon now. They were wormlings when they met them. They rescued them in our session 0. And then when we went live on stream, they had 6 companion dragons. So yeah, I'm a fan of this subclass because my
I
players
love that
all
it's
have
like every
dragons.
Stark having a direwolf, it's just basically that, but with dragons.
Exactly, and it happened organically, and they have not abused it either. Because also they're still young dragons. They're not, full adult, like super powerful ones. But also my players are really great, and they're not like, and then my dragon does everything for me, like kills all the bad guys for me. That easily could have gone that route. So anyway, bringing it back to this. Yes, I was very excited to hear about this. And actually, one of my players did point out to me that that this has been the earlier version of this was on Unearthed Arcana, and this is now the official version. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see if this is something that we could work into our campaign. As our dragons grow older, maybe there will be some drakes that start popping up, and some of our characters could maybe multi-class with this subclass.
Oh, I love that. Of course, you'll have to get far enough to pick your ranger path, but I think that would be a very rewarding
Right.
way to add to
Mhm.
your character. And I love that you, as you alluded to, there was a version of this available in Unearthed Arcana. I want to say last fall it came out. But this is the official legal at your table, play to your heart's content version of the Drakewarden Ranger, and it's pretty similar, I think, to what we looked at, what we were seeing from the Unearthed Arcana. Um, I feel like they've made a couple of small changes, but substantially what we were hoping for has arrived in the book. But let's get into some of those details and some of those features on the Drakewarden Ranger. Hmm. So the basic gist, as explained in the lovely preview, your connection to the natural world takes the form of a draconic spirit, which can manifest in physical form as a drake. As your powers grow, your drake grows as well, blossoming from a small four-legged companion to a majestic winged creature, large and strong enough for you to ride. Key point. I'm just gonna large and strong enough for you to ride. Uh, Along the way, you gain an increasing share of the awe-inspiring power of dragons. And there is an origins table. Does anyone have a D6 on you?
Oh, I do.
Yes.
No, you go ahead.
You know, I love to make y'all roll on tables. My secret reason for streaming.
Oh, I got a
there is
1.
One on the Drakewarden origin table might mean, if you choose to go with this, you studied a dragon's scale or claw, or a trinket from a dragon's hoard, creating your bond through that token's lingering draconic magic.
Cool, cool. Okay.
I,
I really,
I
I
love,
actually,
yeah.
I love this. I love this table because there's actually little hints to some of the things that we have kind of seen in the past, and that is so if you were playing Magic the Gathering, or you are caught up on your lore on Bahamut, the sort of god of all good dragons, you will recognize with number 6. It says, "You had a vivid dream of a mysterious figure accompanied by 7 yellow canaries who warned you of impending doom." So Bahamut can actually appear in a human form, and he is always accompanied by 7 yellow canaries that are actually 7 ancient gold dragons in disguise. So those sorts of little hints within
Mhm.
these origins, I just really appreciated them. And I think if you have players who maybe are not as aware of the deep lore that is in within dragonkind. These are little things that you can reveal over time, where maybe this mysterious figure makes appearances throughout your campaign, and then as your ranger levels up, it slowly becomes revealed who this figure is and who these 7 yellow canaries are. Um, Similarly, we have at number 3, a dragon gave you a geode or gemstone to care for. To your surprise, the drake hatched from that stone. That's definitely a tease of the gem dragons that we're going to be seeing in Fizban. Which, I mean, if you, I forget what exactly the event was for. I think it was for Extra Life that they released the Sapphire Dragon a few years ago. But effectively, like this sort of origin tale is your an easy way for a DM to be like, there's more to come. There is more to this world than maybe your character is aware of. Like how strange that a dragon has hatched from a gemstone. Um, and perhaps that dragon hatched and appears as a white dragon, but as it grows older, it starts to look slightly different. And so your character will learn about maybe some type of dragon that is commonly mistaken with white dragons.
Mhm.
I love that. We've talked a little bit about in early interviews. James White and some of the other creative contributors to this new book have described the way that a big part of Fizban's is going to be dragons and the effect they have on the world, and the way that they sort of bend the world around them and their particular unique relationship to the planes of existence. And I love that that's the highest level cosmology, but as expressed in your particular subclass at your table. I love that, like, the atomic version of that big picture can come into play with your character concepts. But let's talk about some more things that you can do once you have your Drake companion. Okay, two things are going to happen for you at 3rd level. First off, you're going to get a draconic gift. That's your 3rd level Drakewarden feature. The bond you share with your Drake creates a connection to dragonkind. Granting you understanding and empowering your presence, you gain the following benefits. Free spell, Thaumaturgy. You just know it. You learn the Thaumaturgy cantrip. It's a ranger spell for you. And Tongue of Dragons. You get to speak, read, and write Draconic or one other language of your choice. Do y'all have a favorite thing to do with Thaumaturgy, which is basically like a minor nature magic of your choice kind of spell?
I've had some fun with Thaumaturgy when characters will ignore me or an NPC ignores me, and then I'm just like, all right, I cast Thaumaturgy and my voice is 3 times louder. It's just kind of, it's just a nice little comical way of using the spell to sort of troll your friends and your DM.
My favorite use of Thaumaturgy was not my own use. It was B. Dave Walters in the game that we play in. We were trying to hide from some, I think they were like hill giants. And he used Thaumaturgy to recreate the sounds of a dragon sleeping near us so that the hill giants hopefully would be fooled and not try to approach us. I think they weren't fooled, but I was like, that is brilliant. I love that. That's awesome.
That's
really clever.
fantastic. So that's not all that happens at 3rd level. Of course, you get your Drake companion. As an action, you can magically summon the Drake that is bound to you. It appears in an unoccupied space of your choice within 30 feet of you. The Drake is friendly to you and your companions, and it obeys your commands. It has its own stat block, which we'll get to in one moment, and it uses your proficiency bonus in several places, so it grows with you, essentially. When you summon the Drake, at the time of summoning, choose a damage type listed in its Draconic Essence trait. You can determine, I like this, the cosmetic characteristics of the Drake, such as colors, scale texture, any visible effect of its Draconic Essence, and it does not need to match, no effect on the game statistics. In combat, the Drake shares your initiative count, but it takes its turn immediately after yours. It can move and use its reaction on its own. That will come up later. But the only action it takes on its turn is the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action on your turn to command it to take another action. Go do that. Fight that person. They're a jerk. That action can be one in its stat block or some other action. Just covering our bases here. If you are incapacitated, the Drake can take any action of its choice, not just dodge. It remains until it's reduced to 0 hit points, until you use this feature to summon it again, or until you die. Anything the Drake was wearing or carrying is left behind when the Drake vanishes. Once you summon the Drake, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 1st level or higher to summon it. Michael, you want to point out anything that jumped out at you from the stat block on the Drake companion?
There were 3 things that stood out to me that I absolutely loved. 4 things, actually. So the first one is that you can just magically summon it. You don't have a Drake that has to follow you around. None of this weird, awkward situation when you're walking around with a Drake in the middle of a town of dragon hunters. And it's just really convenient. Like, it could just poof beside you wherever you need it at any time. Doesn't take a long amount of time to bring it. Love that. Second, the fact that the characteristics of the Drake do not have to match its damage types means that you can have a lot of fun with what your Drake looks like. I'm definitely imagining maybe like a Harengon from the Feywild has dreamed up a Drake and has this very strange purple and orange sort of dragon creature that spits out ice or something of the sort. So really, you can have a lot of fun there, and I appreciate the customization. The third thing is that you command it with your bonus action, not with your action. And this is something I could talk about more. I could talk about at length. The fact that with the Beastmaster Ranger subclass, you command your Beast Companion with an action, which is kind of problematic on its own. This one, you can just burn your bonus action and have your Drake Companion fighting alongside you, which is what I've always wanted. And was that 3? Was that 4? I think that was 3. Okay, the 4th one. I have the 4th one. I'm sorry. I'm ready. I'm ready. I came ready, Amy.
We're not keeping count. Go for it.
The 4th one is that when your Drake gets hit down to 0 hit points, you can bring it back with a 1st level or higher spell slot. I really appreciate that because, and I'm sorry for those of you who are fans of Beastmasters, I really dislike how when your Beast Companion is killed, it takes a minimum of 8 hours of you communing with a non-hostile beast in order for you to make them your new Beast Companion. Which there's a lot of room for roleplay there, but if you're not in a group that wants to be having that sort of roleplay where you need to take a session to hunt down the beast that you wish to tame, it can kind of get in the way of things. It can slow things down, especially if you're like in a dungeon and you had a wolf Beast Companion and then there's only, giant spiders. You might feel like this doesn't really suit my character. I miss the original companion that I had. So you don't have to really worry about that. You get to have your companion, and if they get knocked down to 0, you can bring back the very same one.
I love that.
Yeah.
Although you sound like a person who's planning on having your pets die. Just saying.
I know. I'm a DM that is not afraid to kill the pets.
It's what's right for you and your table. Just FYI, because I made that sound really cold. But obviously they built rules for this for a reason. Aliza, thoughts on the Drake Companion?
Yeah, just kind of echoing what you said, Michael. Them being able to come back, it feels like this is obviously more magical. It has the draconic heritage, so it's just sturdier. It's a sturdier companion, which is very exciting. And yeah, for that same reason, you can bring them back. My thoughts are my 2 things, although maybe I'll have 3. The 2 things that I like the most on this stat block are the being able to like choose the damage type that it has immunity to. I think that's awesome that you can kind of just, depending on who you're up against, bring your Drake on board and be like, "Yep, we're gonna do ice for this one." Like it's, I love that you have so much versatility with your companion that you can just bring them in and like fine tune them to what you need protection against or what they will need protection against. So that's awesome. And then also the fact that the infused strikes, that extra D6 of damage you get, also gives you what is it? Is it yeah, it's more damage of the type determined by its draconic essence. So you can then also hyper like give extra damage to whoever you're up against with your Drake each time and change that each time you bring your Drake out. That's awesome. I love that type of versatility. So I think those are
That's
my 2 big things on here that excite me.
That's fantastic. I love that you drilled into that because that was what I was going to say. We're saving those reactions that the Drake can take on its own. You really want that to work. They've designed this, I think, very wisely so that while the Drake has its own action to take a little bite out of somebody, as a reaction, those infused strikes when another creature within 30
Mhm.
feet of the Drake that it can see hits a target with a weapon attack, for instance, you, the Ranger, the Drake infuses the strike with its essence, causing the target to take an extra 1d6 damage of the type determined by its draconic essence. And speaking of hardiness, that Drake Companion will grow in hardiness over time with you. The hit points are 5 plus 5 times your Ranger level. So if you pick this up at 3, it starts with 20 hit points, but it's going to telescope on up to what, 105? And be a nice, beefy, no longer small dragon. Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
that's
on that,
that's super
on the subject of hit points, what I do like is the scaling of it. Sorry, Beastmaster fans. With the Beastmaster, your companion, I believe, is scaling at 4 hit points per ranger level. So your Drake is going to be tankier than your typical beast companion. I think actually the Drake scales at the same rate as the Artificer's Steel Defender. I believe the Steel Defender actually gets slightly more hit points because you add your intelligence modifier.
I'm gonna nod. I don't remember, but that sounds accurate to me.
Yeah, I actually just looked up. It's 2 plus your intelligence modifier plus 5 times your artificer level. So you're right around the same. You have very slightly less hit points than a steel defender. On the flip side of that, you have a higher armor class. Your Drake is 14 plus your proficiency bonus, whereas the steel defender is locked in at 15. And then also comparatively to the Beast Master's companion, the AC of that companion is whatever the Beast's typical AC is plus your proficiency bonus. Correct me if I'm wrong. Which is kind of restricts some of the beasts that you could choose from, because if you're like, I don't want my beast to die, so maybe I won't pick one that has a low AC. So with the Drake, you kind of just you look at the stat block and you know exactly what you're getting. You don't really have to dig through stuff. And so if you're trying to get a sense of like what is the Drake's sort of power level, I think look more at the Steel Defender than at your typical Beast Companion.
And I will say, I'm so glad that you are bringing up these comparisons to help folks get a sense for the shape of these and how to gauge how they will work. I do love that, like, the flavor of the Beastmaster and the way it plays out, that like a bear should have qualities of being a bear,
Yeah.
and it's a specific bear, not like a wizard's familiar that you're plucking out of wherever. I that makes sense to me in a way that makes sense for the design. But I love that this lets it have some of that, like the versatility of type and the resummon ability because they are magical creatures. I think that's a very smart move, but it like you can see why they would make each of those different choices for those types of companion relationships.
Absolutely. And I think what I like so much about the Drake in the fact that you can change their damage type is that it feels very much on par for what a ranger would need, because a ranger is supposed to be a master of nature. They're supposed to understand all the different beasts and monsters that you would encounter. So if you know, okay, we're going to a troll encampment, therefore, I'm going to have my Drake spit fire in order to stop the natural healing element of those trolls.
The ranger is your friend who has like the highest level membership at REI or whatever, and like you're all going backpacking, and the ranger's just like, you're gonna need a tent that's good to -30. I mean, don't be going out here with your target tent because it's wonderful, but you will die of cold. I love that. Aliza, do you want to take a look? Tell us what about Bond of Fang and Scale?
I was just looking at that. Yeah, so this is a 7th level feature for the Drakewarden. So the bond you share with your Drake intensifies, protecting you and stoking the Drake's fury. When you summon your Drake, it gains a swimming speed equal to its walking speed and can breathe both air and water, or it grows wings on its back and gains a flying speed equal to its walking speed, your choice. In addition, while your Drake is summoned, you and the Drake gain the following benefits: Drake Mount. The Drake grows to a medium size, reflecting your special bond. You can use the Drake as a mount, even if your size is medium. It's a funny picture. While you are riding your Drake, it can't use the flying speed of this feature. Okay, so you can't ride it while it's flying yet, but you can mount it.
And
then
it sounds like it can
Magic
still
Fang.
swim.
Yeah, but it can still swim. That's true. Magic Fang. The Drake's bite attack deals an extra 1d6 damage of the type chosen for the Drake's draconic essence. And resistance. You gain resistance to the damage type chosen for the Drake's draconic essence. Pretty nice features there.
I love that.
And
Do you have a fave
now,
among those?
I mean, I feel like I'm falling into like the viewing this as a DM, like the resistance is pretty nice. That's pretty cool. But narratively, like, and as a player, getting to ride your Drake like it's a horse is pretty awesome. So that might be my favorite, actually.
All I want is a Goliath riding a dwarf-sized Drake.
I mean,
It's a magical
I
pond.
mean, yeah, it
Now,
is
I think,
indeed.
correct me if I'm wrong, because I checked this, but then I immediately forgot. But I believe this is one of the things they adjusted slightly from the Unearthed Arcana, in terms of the point at which riding your dragon becomes an option if you are a medium-sized creature. And whether or not I'm right about that, you sure can ride it at 7th level, as whatever size you are, in with your Ranger Drakewarden, and I think that's incredibly cool and just super fun. In addition to the fact that that bite attack gets a little beefier, which sounds great. Micheal, thoughts?
I love it. I love the idea that you can give your Drake a swim speed and have it breathe both air and water, just because every campaign should have an underwater level. You've got to throw your players underwater at least once in a campaign so they can appreciate not having disadvantage on all of their attacks. And the Drake, makes it a lot less painful. And it's just really cool to think about. Like, you summon your Drake and you can just slightly change what it looks like so it looks more like an aquatic creature. It's just
Flippers.
like, oh my god, yes, it can have flippers.
And you can
It's
still
just
choose
so
the
cool.
elements,
Oh my
so
god!
they could be fire flippers underwater. I don't know. I can't stop you.
Oh my god, amazing.
Uh, from there, we scale on up to 2 more incredible features. Micheal, you want to tell us about Drake's Breath at 11th?
Sure, I really like this feature. So as an action, you can exhale a 30-foot cone of damaging breath or cause your Drake to exhale it. You choose acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison damage. Your choice doesn't have to match your Drake's draconic essence, which is so cool. I love it. I love the customization. Each creature in the cone makes a dex save or against your spell save DC, or takes 8d6 damage, or half as much on a successful one. And then this damage scales along with you up to d6 at 15th level. And this is
10d6, yeah.
right, to 10d6. And this is what I appreciate. So normally you can only do this once per long rest, but you can expend spell slots of 3rd level or higher to use it again. So I just double checked. At 11th level, you're going to have 3 3rd level spell slots as a ranger. So you can effectively do this 4 times per day if you wanted to.
So I love that this is your action, or you can cause your Drake to do that, and it doesn't take your Drake's turn, if I'm reading that correctly. Which, in addition
Yeah.
to the fact that those infused strikes, if you do a weapon attack, the reaction from your Drake can happen without it needing to take their turn, gives the Drake more to do without you having to be like, I only get one thing that's going to happen here. It like widens your options in a way that I think is really, really smart. Aliza, thoughts on Drake's Breath?
Again, narratively, as a player, I think people are gonna have a lot of fun with this. Getting to, like, kind of channel that draconic energy yourself and do that damage breath is just gnarly. It's really awesome. Yeah, I think that's 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 the excitement for me in this feature.
I really do
Yeah,
love
and
the
then
way that it
also
takes. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just also the fact that, like, Dragon's Breath and here Drake's Breath is an automatic damage dealer. Like, the fact that you're gonna do damage and it's so powerful. So I think that's gonna be exciting for people to have that kind of damage dealer.
Yeah. The way it expresses your magic in sort of this, like, I think this is a great example of sort of scaling up these, like, I have a little pet friend, I can ride my pet friend around, I can breathe fire, you want it
Yeah.
to feel like it's really growing to new scales, no dragon pun intended, as you go. uh, and finally, Elise, you want to take us home with Perfected Bond at 15th?
Yes. Okay. So at 15th level, your bond to your Drake reaches the pinnacle of its power. While your Drake is summoned, you and the Drake gain the following benefits. Empowered Bite. The Drake's bite attack deals an extra 1d6 damage of the type chosen for its draconic essence, for a total of 2d6 extra damage. Large Drake. The Drake grows to large size. When you ride your Drake, it is no longer prohibited from using the flying speed of Bond of Fang and Scale. And reflexive resistance. When either you or the Drake takes damage while you're within 30 feet of each other, you can use your reaction to give yourself or the Drake resistance to that instance of damage. It's like really powerful. Like that last part, that's really powerful. That's awesome.
Stay away from me and my Drake. That's pretty amazing.
Never talk to me and my Drake son again.
Yeah, exactly. Michael, thoughts on Perfected Bond?
Yeah, I have to agree. Reflexive resistance is really strong. When I actually read this for the first time, I thought it was kind of like a absorb elements on a stick. I didn't realize it's any type of damage, which is really cool. It's really handy. This class does a really good job of making sure you always have something to do with each of your actions. You always are going to have different options for your action, for your bonus action. You know, the Ranger's bonus action, I'm going to say, like, is no longer tied down to Hunter's Mark. You're going to have some other things that you can do with this subclass that, and this kind of brings us home with giving you something really cool to use your reaction with.
I love that. Aliza, anything else to comment on the Perfected Bond?
No, I don't think so. Nice. Yeah, you get that nice bump up with the extra d6 of damage. It's powerful. And I'm excited for people to get to 15th level and start riding their Drakes. It's going to be real fun for them.
We've talked about high level abilities on the channel. We were just talking about it last week in terms of the Phantom Rogue. But I am always interested in the way that the sort of top level abilities, some of them just take your existing stuff and go to town with it. And others are sort of like, here's a substantial change to the way you play. And I feel like this one is nicely its own thing. Like it buffs up stuff. It gives you something genuinely new that you didn't have before, but that makes sense as a scale of like, you can get some elemental resistances. Oh, now you get the whatever you say is I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you throw at me bounces off me. No, that's a bad comparison because it doesn't do damage back to the other person. But pretend that analogy works. I like that as a bundle of final steps up. I think that it works really nicely for the Ranger, and I hope people dig them in play. Which brings me to, what ideas do y'all have for the Ranger Drakewarden? Now that you know what kinds of things it will let you do, is there a concept that you want to run with, or advice that you would have for someone building one of these, or just a really fun, like, here's what's going to happen once we get Fizbans in our hands?
I mean, my first thought when I read Perfected Bond, I actually do want to add one thing with Perfected Bond that I appreciate is that, or what I like about this subclass is that every single feature that you get ties back in with the Drake. So if you're looking at this, the Battlesmith Artificer, which I absolutely love. I've played a Battlesmith Artificer and it was just so much fun. But as you're going through the features, some of them feel a little disconnected from the Steel Defender. The Steel Defender kind of takes, it's kind of like it's definitely a companion, but it's not something that your build is like really woven into. If you have a combat where your Steel Defender hangs back, you're not really going to feel it. Whereas this, it's actively encouraging you to fight with your Drake, to really be interacting with them and making decisions about how the two of you are kind of like weaving together within the bounds of combat. So kind of with that in mind, when I read Perfected Bond, the first thing that I thought of was, how cool would it be to have the big bad of your campaign be one of this subclass? You can have someone be like, you can be entering a town and the townspeople are like, a man rode in on a gold dragon and breathed fire all upon us, and your group your party has to figure out why a gold dragon would ever attack the good people of this particular town. So the customization of the Drake can really be used to weave a story in itself, if you're a DM who wants to toy around with this. And then I think for a player, you can't mount your Drake until 7th level. But I still think that, if you're in a campaign where you're starting at level 5 or so, the variant human, the S class of all races, the variant human, you could take the mounted combatant feat to increase the survivability of your Drake. I think that's a feat that you really can't go wrong with when it comes to this subclass. But I personally would want to go fairy, if only because you get the enlarge reduce spell. So screw the subclass. I can have a large Drake as soon as I want. and I love it.
For at least a minute at a time, a big old you can make a heck of an impression in 60 seconds of enlarged dragon action. That's great. That's fantastic. Aliza, what would you do or will you do with a Drakewarden Ranger?
Well, Micheal, I love your idea of having a big bad be this subclass. I think that's brilliant. I'm thinking as a player, I actually think I am going to build my next character that I'm playing in a mid-level one-shot. We're starting at level 9, so I'm like, I think it's going to be a Drakewarden. And personally, I'm super excited about, I know we don't have access to it yet, but the gemstone dragons, I cannot wait to get my hands on that, because that really is exciting to me, to have new types of dragons, and gemstones are pretty, and just I'm super excited to dive into that lore, and also honestly the geology of it. How does that come about? What does the magic, what does what do those natural elements do to the essence of the magic? How does it change their magic? So yeah, I'm thinking about doing that. Yeah. And and also as a DM, I don't want to give away, because I have my streaming campaign and my players are going to watch this probably. But yeah, I'm having, just looking at the origins chart, there's a lot of these things that you can give people as a DM, and then it kind of opens the door for them to decide if they want to take this subclass and start down this path. So you could just, Micheal mentioned, have the Baphomet, that mysterious figure in the Yellow Canaries, have that appear to one of the characters. Or you can say, your dragon companion is leaving you, or is going to stay up in this corner of the continent, but they hand you a geode, a sparkling purple geode, and they say, keep this close to your heart, and then maybe in a couple of sessions it hatches into a Drake or something like that. So I love how many little story threads, and also player growth threads, you can gift your players, if you know that they're interested in adding this as a subclass, or if you just kind of want to give them the option if they haven't considered it.
I love that. That's so exciting. 2 weeks, only 2 weeks until this starts hitting tables. You can pre-order Fizban's Treasury of Dragons right now to get the pre-order perks that'll come with it on D&D Beyond. And you're going to want to stay tuned, because we are not at the end of Dragon Month by a long shot. And we even have more good stuff just from those celebration previews to talk about. So meet us back here next time to talk about some more goodies coming our way. And in the meantime, where can the people find you, Micheal?
You can find me here at D&D Beyond, and on Twitter at Micheal Galvis.
And Aliza, thank you so much for coming on the stream. Where can the people follow you and those adventures you were telling us about?
Thank you. You can find me at Aliza Pearl on Twitter and Instagram, ALIZ as in zebra, A Pearl. And yeah, I run my Saturday weekly D&D campaign called Lords of Faerun. We stream 12:30 p.m. Pacific on Saturdays at twitch.tv/Kira858. And actually this Thursday, I'm going to be over on Fandom Tabletop playing some horror with Melly, our GM over there. So yeah, definitely check out. They're doing like a weekly horror anthology that I'm super excited to plan. So that's where you can see
So it
me
is
this month.
Dragon Month and also Spooky Month and all the good stuff
Yes.
happening.
Yes.
Boy, what a good October. Thank you all for watching with us. I'm Amy Dallen. You can find me at Enthusiamy wherever, or just here next time when we come back very soon to talk more about dragons on D&D Beyond.
It's D&D.